James, we usually get a lot of positive feedback about our show name. We get a lot of positive feedback about our segment names. I think they might have been able to use us in Washington. The Washington football team, which used to just straight up have a racial slur in their name, thankfully decided, okay, we're no longer known by that. We recognize the harm that this can cause to American Indian communities. So we are going to change our name. And granted, to their credit, the new name is just a placeholder. They're still figuring out what their permanent name will be. But James, what is their new name?
Their new name is Washington, the football team.
Isn't that the clunkiest thing ever? It's amazing. I want to hear the chants. I want to hear how you can find a way to make that sing-songy, because I've been staring at this all day and I just can't figure it out.
Here we go, football team. Here we go. Like, even that is fucking clunky as hell. Yeah, so with like this obviously overly positive response to this placeholder football team name, should we change our podcast name just for this week? Because it's temporary. That's all we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So this week, you are not listening to Trailer Hitch. You are listening to Movie Trailer, the podcast.
Man, it's incredible. We need a new theme song.
You can't haul your stuff without it.
Movie Trailers, the podcast. Movie Trailers, the podcast.
This movie might totally suck, but the whiskey sure is going down fine. Yeah!
Movie Trailers, the podcast.
Yeah, it just doesn't have the same flow, does it?
No, you know what? Shut it down. I don't like it. Forget it.
Yeah.
Scrap it.
You know what? Nope. We're going to go back to our original name. Maybe I'll throw in the correct part of the theme song right here. And okay, you are listening to Trailer Hitch. Hi, welcome. I'm Kevin.
Hi, welcome. I'm James.
This is a trailer podcast where we rate and review movie trailers on a scale of need to see more, or never need to see. If James and I both give a trailer a need to see rating, we celebrate. Then we go see the movie, report back to you guys in a segment called Trailer in the Rear View, in which we look at the trailer in retrospect and then talk about the film writ large, which is something we'll be doing today, twice over. We have Palm Springs, and indeed, we do have... I was going to try and be coy about it, but it's going to be in the episode title. We have Money Plane. You're damn right we have Money Plane. And if you're a regular listener, you know that if we gave a trailer a double never need to see, you are probably confused and wondering, why are you talking about this? You guys didn't have a faux pas. There was no goof. Why punish yourselves this way? We have a story about that. It will come up later. But first... we do have a couple of trailers to talk about. Isn't that right, James?
That's right. We have some of our tried and true segments to touch on before we get to those just eager listeners about Money Plane. and Palm Springs.
Yeah, so the first segment we're going to be going to is a relatively new one. This is Courtesy Honk. This is when James and I see a trailer, and whether it be the trailer itself is too short, or whether it be we just don't have enough thoughts to justify doing the full trailer review, that's when the Courtesy Honk comes in. This is us going, meep, meep, I see you. Nice to see you. Maybe a little wave.
Maybe a passive-aggressive mutter to myself and to the audience about it.
Yes. And we'll see if there are going to be passive-aggressive mutterings for this, James, because our trailer for Courtesy Honk is Rogue. So Rogue stars Megan Fox as the head of an elite commando squad. And they go into foreign country, which we're not going to name. Not because we don't want to, because the trailer doesn't. And they're there to rescue the governor's daughter. Now, which governor in a U.S. state has enough pull to send an elite group of commandos on an intercontinental rescue mission? I'm not sure. Perhaps the commandos are just doing this as a favor, where they're looking at this governor and saying, listen, thank you so much for these dope parks. To thank you, we're going to go get your daughter back. I don't really know how it trades off, but There they are. They're shooting a bunch of dudes. They're about to extract the governor's daughter when their helicopter is shot down by a rocket. I feel like that happens quite a bit in action movies to the point in which you'd want to build a contingency plan. But they have none. They do have the governor's daughter and a radio, and they're going, our evac is dead. So not really too sure what's going to happen here. But all of a sudden, what stalks them, James? Is it the kidnappers who took the governor's daughter in the first place?
No.
Is it an entirely brand new squad of people who are also trying to get the governor's daughter?
Also no.
Is it the Predator?
Closer.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not the Predator. It's a predator, and that predator, of course, is a fucking lion. So this lion starts picking off the commandos one by one, and Megan Fox, with her ever-dwindling team of commandos, has to try and fend off this lion. That's what we have for this trailer. James, what do you think about this?
I thought all the things you thought, but got 2 additions. One, I think maybe the governor's daughter. I think they're talking about the governor of whatever country they're in, like that person's.
Oh, really?
daughter. I think so. I don't know, because the governor's daughter barely ever speaks. And she does once, but I can't remember if she had like some sort of accent. I don't know. Regardless, that's not what we're focusing on here. So the only other thing here I have to say is the trailer really like builds to the moment where they have that moment where it's like, oh, let's highlight who's in this movie. You know, an Avengers film would be like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, and go on and on and on. This movie, it was Megan Fox. And then that was it. And I was like, you know what? I have some notes. How about Megan Fox and lions and explosions. Insert Tim Allen grunt.
Yeah, unfortunately, the other actors don't really get as much screen time. They get some chow time with the lion, unfortunately, but yeah, so this trailer is, I think, notable and honk-worthy because it is a classic bait and switch. Now, classic bait and switches are pretty new to trailers, granted, so maybe I shouldn't call them classic, but we've seen a few trailers now pretty recently, James, including Ghosts of War, where it starts with a straight-faced and earnest premise. Basically, that's like the first 20 to 30 minutes of Predator is the beginning of the trailer. And then about halfway through, we pull the rug out from under you and go, not just kidding, it's a... And then you fill in the blank with some Mad Lib batshit crazy noun. And with Ghosts of War, it was definitely ghosts. And with Rogue, it's a lion. So I'm starting to notice this trend.
I mean, we got Overlord was one also.
Yeah, that's fair. That is definitely fair.
That was like World War II movie. Just kidding. It's zombies.
I'm really liking this trend because it doesn't matter what I think quality-wise about the trailer. If you want in a syllable, but in terms of just the sheer goofy fun of suddenly there's a lion and this ragtag group of commandos with all of the bullets in the world can't seem to get a shot on it, I think is honestly pretty fun. And I think it is worth seeing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I added the Tim Allen grunt. That would be my one syllable.
So that is Rogue. We've given it our meep meeps. But now we have to lend credence to something else. And this is something... I called it a classic trend in trailers, even though it's a relatively new thing. Now we're going to be looking at a relatively new trend for an old-ass trailer and property. James, can you let the people know what's going on here?
Ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary listeners, we have some more marketing, quote-unquote, and footage, quote-unquote, of New Mutants, which is an X-Men Marvel movie that Kevin and I, for the very first time we talked about this was 2 years ago. 2 years ago for our...
We talked about it as recently as what, this year, I think? Like right at the top of the year? I think that was in the Cats episode.
I think you're right. So this has been a recurring... We should make this a full-on segment, is just talking about New Mutants. And so we talked about it for the very first time 2 years ago, during Comic-Con, which Kevin and I, for Trailer Hitch, we always do a Comic Conquerors episode where we review the movie trailers that come out of Comic-Con. 2 years ago, the very first trailer for Marvel's New Mutants, or 20th Century Fox's New Mutants, came out.
20th Century Fox's, now Disney winks the New Mutants, yeah.
Exactly. So we've gone through a lot of stuff. We don't need to tell you. There's been a lot of changing of the guard for this movie, and there's been a lot of production delays. It's been 2 years, probably longer, with how they've been filming it. 3 years in the making. And we finally get a little bit more action here. And I have to say, it's a perfect lead-in to tease our episode for next episode, which will be our 100th episode, by the way, of Trailer Hitch, which is a milestone and something I'm very excited to be celebrating.
I am so stoked for it. Yes, yeah, we will be talking about the New Mutants in the next episode. The only thing I'll throw out there, so the reason why James and I are hip to this is there was a Zoom Q&A, more or less, with the director and the cast of the New Mutants, and they showed what they called the beginning of the movie. It was honestly a pretty interesting clip. It did make my eyebrows shoot up, and then I went, man, if this is the beginning of the movie, this is honestly pretty fucking jarring. And then it became abundantly clear, no, this is just a random set of clips and what effectively amounts to just another trailer. And then
sizzle reel. It's a sizzle reel, really.
You're totally right. It's a sizzle reel.
Yeah.
And then after we got out of it, like the cast, everyone's very polite and applauds. And the director makes a joke where he goes, if I didn't have to watch it so many times, I'd go and see that. And all I could think of was the three holdouts, the three people who haven't lost their faith in the New Mutants actually coming out at some point. Just sit there, listen to that comment, and hear the cast laugh, and just slowly wilt. And for those three people, I see you. I understand. Maybe that wasn't the right joke for him to make, given how many fucking times this thing has been delayed. But we'll get into the actual clip and the sizzle reel and what that shows next episode for our 100th episode, which will be Comic COVID Conquerors.
Comic COVID Conquerors. I love it. But yeah, I mean, that video also opened with them poking fun at themselves of having this ominous music in the ominous hallway with the release dates of each time it told people it was going to be in the movie theaters, and then it crossed it out. April 2018 or something, and then it crossed it out, and then it jumped in it. It kept going with that. And then the last one was a bunch of tweets popping up of what's happening with this movie? What are we going to see this? And then finally they revealed, you guys, August 20-something, 2020. And then they did up a final tweet of fingers crossed, which is I really appreciated that kind of humor.
I did, but even then I saw the August release date and it said in theaters, and I went, well, there's no way this is all going to wrap up by August, which means it can't open in theaters.
There's no way, Kevin.
Oh my God, is it going to be delayed again? And are we just going to be doing this again at the top of next year? My answer is probably. I don't have a lot of faith.
It's good for Trailer Hitch if this just keeps getting prolonged, because I love talking about this nonstop.
That's our prerequisite. We have to talk about the New Mutants because there's a new piece of marketing for it 2 years down the line.
And I did want to tease the 100th episode. That's going to be exciting. But we do have episode 99 to worry about right now. We haven't finished this, Kevin. We got to focus on 99.
And buddy, I'm ready. I got my bags packed. I got my ticket ready because we got to step on a money plane, don't we?
Now bring me my money!
Oh, wait. I said I was going to tell you a story about why we're watching Money Plane. So, okay, yeah, let me tell you the story.
But Kevin, where is my money? Where's my money?
We'll get there. It's okay. First, I have to provide some context of why we're even listening to Kelsey Grammer scream about his money. So, I woke up one morning. Well, let's be real. I woke up one afternoon because I've been sleeping in a lot during quarantine to a press email in the Trailer Hitch email. That is something that we are absolutely not used to. It's the very first time that's ever happened. And this was like a full-on press email. It had the date it was coming out, a link to the trailer, which we've been there. And we also had production stills, like the whole 9 yards. It was this very official email. And I was so jazzed about it because it does give credence to what James and I do. It means that someone is listening and thought to include us on the distro for this distribution company for this particular movie. And that is exciting and worth celebrating in of its own right. Now, here's the deal though. The movie that we were alerted to is definitely Money Plane, which we're going to talk about what the movie is, but just your very brief rundown is it's a casino in the sky. And if you just thought of something out of like BioShock Infinite or Cowboy Bebop, scrap that because it's a 747 where people play Russian roulette and bad guys bet on it. And Frasier's own Kelsey Grammer hires a ragtag group of commandos to hijack the money plane and to steal the money therein. So I look at this email, I immediately hit reply and say, "Hi, this is Kevin from Trailer Hitch. Thank you for thinking of our publication." They called us a publication in their email, so I just went with it. And
what an honor.
I was very polite and professional, and I acted like I've been there before and said, "Hey, we're more than happy to review this. Would you be willing to send me a screener?" Within 2 minutes, I got a reply with a Vimeo link to Money Plane. So we got a screener. It's Trailer Hitch's first official press screener. Asterisk, it's Money Plane.
I'd say we peaked here. Maybe we should stop before episode 100. Just like
there's a before. I had a free link to Money Plane and an after, and I'm still grappling with the after. With that, I immediately contacted James and I went, "Dude, we have to watch this movie together. Do you need me to get a COVID test? I'm willing to get a clear COVID test just so that we can watch the movie." And we were very smart and conscious about it. James, why don't you go over your rules for how to watch a movie in your house?
I said no COVID test necessary as long as you're feeling good. You don't feel like you have a fever or anything. Here's what we'll do. You can come over. We'll all wear masks. And Jenny and I will set aside a part of the apartment that will be designated just to you. And then this part, like 10 feet away, will be designated just to Jenny and I. You will be allowed in. You will be seated. And then once we are seated, we will take our masks off. Right. And we hit play and we watch this bad boy.
So when James and I are talking about Money Plane, and if I say, "Yeah, when you said this," if you're like, "Did those motherfuckers like roll around in a bed of like dirty needles and used Kleenex together and watch this movie?" No. The only way we would break quarantine was for Money Plane, folks.
Yes.
Otherwise, we do encourage everyone to maintain social distancing if you can help it. Obviously, do Netflix watch parties or Hulu watch parties. But in this particular scenario, I mean, goddamn, we had a free Vimeo link. So here we are, folks. Here's Money Plane.
It's a legend in the underworld. To those in the know, it's the Money Plane. A bulletproof casino in the sky, untouchable by any government agency. Whatever you want to wager on, the Money Plane has you covered.
Russian roulette.
Word is they carry up to $1 billion on board in crypto and millions in cash. I want you and your crew to take down the house.
It's insane.
Yeah. Heck, might even be a good time.
Now, without further ado, sit back, relax, and prepare for takeoff.
Money Plane needs more Chumbawamba, needs more than just Russian roulette.
Deal. Yeah, nothing further to add, Your Honor. That's a never need to see out of me.
You know what? It's a never need to see for me. I wouldn't hate it, though, if I got really wasted and it was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm throwing this movie on right the fuck now."
Move over, Bitcoin Bust, because here is Money Plane. This is co-written and directed by Andrew Lawrence. This stars, and I can tell you precisely who, because included with all of the press stuff for Money Plane, I have a 15-page document just about Money Plane, including a cast breakdown, which, by the way, If other people don't want to send us free screener links to movies, that's totally cool. That's your right. But to the distribution companies, if you can send me all the stuff as compiled as it is, please do so. This makes my job 400 times easier. So this is starring Adam Copeland, Kelsey Grammer, Thomas Jane, Denise Richards, Katrina Norman, Patrick Lamont Jr., and our random shout out is going to go to John Sword, who was the set PA. Hey, John, first of all, awesome name. Second of all, good job, bud. You PA'd on a movie.
Woo! We've all been there, buddy.
This is Money Plane in retrospect, of course. Our reception to the trailer was pleasantly mocking, I would say. I think that's the best way I can put it, is we made fun of it, but it was all in good sport. We did have a sort of odd fascination about Money Plane, having seen the trailer. And now, having watched the movie in retrospect, I would say this trailer does a pretty good job of setting you up for what you are about to get, with maybe only one exception. But James, how are you feeling about the trailer?
It's funny because we were harsh on the trailer. Like we had fun with it, and like you said, we weren't like, absolutely not, I'm never seeing this movie with this trailer,
Right.
which is a good sign. So you watch that trailer, but we were still pretty harsh on it. And then having watched the movie, I was like, they did everything they could have for that trailer. I don't
Yes.
think anyone could have done a better job, given the footage from that movie, to promote it than the trailer editor did on that trailer.
Yeah, and I think a very good thing that this trailer did was it hid just how low budget this was. So James and I had cracked jokes about how, oh, this is basically a direct-to-DVD movie, if that was still a thing. And I didn't appreciate just how direct-to-DVD the quality of the movie was until we actually started watching the movie. Because, like, oh my god, if they did color correction, I couldn't tell.
Because the trailer hid that so well. It
Yeah.
hid the fact that I feel like our main star was just, we'll get there, but he was very isolated from the rest of the cast. A lot of stuff just felt like it was shot in a warehouse somewhere. The color,
Yes.
like the color correction, you're right, but like the production value of this movie, the trailer pitched something higher, and that's insane to me.
I felt the exact same way, man. I was really blown away in the first 10 to 15 minutes. Oh my god, I did not realize that this would be the kind of movie where when a gun goes off, there's just a very clearly CGI'd muzzle flash, and that's it. And the trailer did. It did a really good job, because you do see some of the heist that's in the beginning of the movie in this trailer, and it does play as like wham bam action. And then you see the movie itself, and it's just the corniest thing you could possibly imagine, folks. And so, man, this trailer moved up like 4 notches in my mind, having seen the movie, because it really did do a good job of putting the best aspects of the movie, including Kelsey Grammer screaming, "Where is my money?" right in the forefront.
But I guess the question is, Kevin, though. So it did a good job. It did what trailers are supposed to do. It put butts in the seats, quote unquote. I mean, we didn't pay for this, and we didn't go to a movie theater. But did it really sell the movie properly is the real question. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it can go either way,
It
because
can go either way. You're right.
it is hiding the cheapness of the film, but at the same time, it does get the spirit of the movie across. Because we will talk about it in the review segment, but you could definitely make a case that Money Plane knows exactly what the fuck it is. Yeah, I mean, like, I would be willing to say that it does a good job. It does sell the spirit of the movie, and I do feel like some of the tackiness in the visuals and some of the story decisions can be traced back to that super low budget. And if this had I would say either a few more $1 million, or they just spent less money on Kelsey Grammer, then maybe we could have gotten that movie. But that's not something I'd be willing to throw the trailer under the bus for.
No, I think you're right. I think this trailer sold this movie properly to a fault.
Yes.
which might be the first time we've ever said that about a movie review that we've done.
The faintest of praises coming for Money Plane. See, it's a lot of firsts for us. We got our first press screening. We got the first, like, very faint praise for a trailer in retrospect. Let's get in the sky, man. Let's talk about the movie itself.
Spoilers to Money Plane from here on out. So
Money Plane begins with a heist. Adam Copeland is doing an art heist. He and his crew are going into a museum to steal a painting. Now, this museum absolutely looks like it's just a warehouse, and the exterior absolutely looks like it's just a warehouse, but we're ignoring that. Adam Copeland and his ragtag group of commandos, including a tech guy and the sexy lady who
and the wheelman.
And the wheelman, yes, with the sexy lady who wiggles her hips. So all the men go, hamana, hamana, and then she beats them up. They get in, and then it turns out they've been set up. The painting isn't really there. And so they've managed to escape by the skin of their teeth. Everyone makes it out alive. And then Adam Copeland goes and talks to his boss, who is Kelsey Grammer. He is Darius Grouch III, or his nickname is The Rumble. That is Kelsey Grammer's character.
So his name is Darius Grouch. De Grouch. He's De Grouch.
He's De Grouch, yes. So De Grouch sits poolside in his very, very nice house. I'm just going to assume it's Kelsey Grammer's house. And he's smoking a cigar. I'm going to just assume that's Kelsey Grammer's cigar. Basically says, well, I should shoot you, but I'm not gonna. I have a job for you. Here's the deal. There's a casino in the sky, and it's up to you to steal all of the money on it.
Copeland was basically like, you had this job lined up awful quickly, almost anticipating that we would have failed the last art heist job, and then we would have to do this one for you. Interesting.
And we learned the reason why Adam Copeland is going along with this is because Kelsey Grammer bought all of Adam Copeland's debt.
His gambling debt. He's a gambler, I guess. So
he is a gambler. De Grouch owns his debt, and therefore he can kill Adam Copeland's family, which includes Denise Richards, his wife, and a daughter that likes being read bedtime stories, and that's really all we get from the daughter.
Well, she likes video games too.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Yeah. Smacking my wrist over here. I should be giving Money Plane more credit. Adam Copeland goes, well, I like my family, so I don't want you to murder them. Guess I'll do this job. And yes, you're exactly right, James. It turns out Adam Copeland's character was a poker player and apparently just tanked all of his money and went into a ton of debt. So what we know about him right at like the 20-minute mark is he's a family man. That's good. He's a shitty poker player. Okay, well, I guess it's good he's not doing that. But he's also the head of a con group that immediately fails in their first mission. So immediately suspicion arises at the efficacy of Adam Copeland as an action hero. But he basically hits up his buddy, played by Thomas Jane, and says, hey, do me a favor and look after my family in case something crazy happens.
Hey, Mr. Godfather of my daughter, which is important because we're saying it out loud right here, right now.
Fair enough. And Adam Copeland gets his gang together. Now, why does the gang go along with this? The only reason why Adam Copeland is doing these jobs is because he has a debt to Kelsey Grammer. Why the rest of the crew is going along with it is a question mark. And on top of that, if they're doing it just for like the goodness of their friend, I guess that's nice. But do they also get a cut in the money when jobs do go well? There's a lot of questions.
That was my assumption. But based on how this movie ended, I don't know if any of them really needed any money ever. Did they all just do this just for fun? We'll get there. Question mark.
Our ragtag team boards the money plane. So on board, we have Adam Copeland in a nice suit. He assumes the identity of a dead child trafficker. So Adam Copeland is there in a nice-ass suit. The sexy lady who makes the men go hamana hamana is sneaking on board as a flight attendant. And then we also have the tech guy who's going to have to hack into the machinery on the plane so that way they can steal the Bitcoin.
Even though that's the normal wheelman.
Yeah, that's the normal wheelman, but they're like, we're subbing you in. And then the normal tech guy goes, why am I being demoted? And then fuck it, we're going to just leave him on the ground.
We're not explaining that part. Don't worry about it. Wheelman, you are now the tech guy. Tech guy, you are now the on the ground setup guy.
Yes, so once we're on the plane, we get the rest of the passengers of the money plane. And they're exactly as you would imagine. You have a bunch of like white dudes in suits who make sexist comments about flight attendants. There is also an older lady who clearly can smell something is going on within the money plane, whether that be like someone is trying to steal the money or not. It never gets paid off, but I feel like we could have done a little bit more with her character. But for the most part, she sits there and goes, every once in a while. And then we get the rules of the money plane. So you're up in the sky. So this is international air. And you can do whatever you want. You basically gamble. So we start with a poker game. Adam Copeland's character, being a poker player looking for redemption, sits down to play Texas Hold'em with this group of rough and tumble bad people. He plays poker and loses. He fucks it up again. Listen, James and I play a little bit of poker, but we're not claiming to be wizards here, but I vividly remember the hand he went all in with was a pair of fours, and if you don't know poker, that's a bad idea. That's like, even if you don't know poker, you know that's a terrible idea. And for whatever reason, that was the moment where I sat back and I went, there's no way they don't know that.
It's weird because they played in the movie, it's edited like a montage, even though I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's just the same hand the whole time, which means they cut it like a montage, even though this is basically the span of like 4 minutes, maybe.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Adam Copeland loses his money and he goes, oh, well, I guess I'll just go back to my original plan of stealing all the money on the money plane. And he fucks off to the cabin because his plan is to knock out the pilot and take over the cockpit.
The cockpit, right. He's going to the cockpit, yep.
He does that. He does that with Gusto. He gets up there, drops, I think, something outside, and the pilot gets up to goes, well, no one else can take care of this. What's that noise? And then Adam Copeland jumps him, and they're fighting each other, and then finally Adam Copeland knocks this pilot out. He breathes a sigh of relief, and he sits down in the pilot's seat. When the pilot gets back up, jumps on his back, fights him again, and then eventually Adam Copeland wrestles him down again, breathes a sigh of relief, and I'm not shitting you, the pilot jumps on his back a second time, and then finally he's able to presumably break his neck. And then Adam is finally in the cockpit, he's in the pilot seat, he's able to control the money plane.
I wanted one more pop-up there, Kevin. I just wanted one more.
I wanted one more pop-up, but I'll let you know when I wanted the pop-up.
So yeah, that's where we differed on that one. I wanted it immediately. I'm like, you know what? Keep this joke drum banging.
While Adam Copeland flies the plane, we do have our tech guy, and everyone goes, oh, well, because your buddy isn't here for some reason, don't know where he is, but I guess that's fine. Come with us. And there is Russian roulette on the money plane, which the tech guy, by chance, totally wins. Like, basically...
while this scene didn't disappoint, I couldn't help but think it could have been better. And like you said, it was over. He won by luck, but I mean, it's Russian roulette. Obviously, the only way you can win is by luck.
Yeah, I will agree with you on the directing bit, James. I think there was just too much build-up to the gun going off. Because it's played as a joke. This tech guy sitting across from this dude who is undefeated in Russian roulette, even though that's kind of inherent, isn't it? They put the bullet in, they spin the chamber, and then they set it down. And the champion says, oh, well, I'll go first. And then the money plane guy goes, house rules, the challenger must always go first. And they slide the gun over. And then the tech guy goes, nah, he wanted to go first, slides gun back over to the champion. Oh, no, but they said it's the rules, slide gun back. And it's basically this slide back and forth. And then eventually the guy goes, you know what? It's fine. I'll do it. And the champion brings the gun up, bang, blows his brains out. And then that's the end of the scene. And while I think that could be funny, I feel like without the shoving the gun back and forth, then it's fun.
Agreed.
It loses its steam, for sure.
But
also, I give it props for attempting the joke.
We got Money Plane to watch. Let's get to the Money Plane.
We have more Money Plane.
We left Alex Copeland in the cockpit. Let's go see how he's going to get out of that cockpit.
Well, here's the deal about that. Adam Copeland is still in the cockpit, and he occasionally goes into an ear set, how are things going? And the tech guy goes, well, I won at Russian roulette, so I guess well. And he's like, how about you, sexy lady who does the humana? And she's like, I'm doing great. Some guy approached me and tried to hit on me. And I said, go away, but in a flirtatious way. And he said, humana, and left me alone so that way I could continue with the plot. Adam Copeland goes, all right, cool. And then he just shuts that off and then keeps flying the plane.
Yep.
In the meantime, we have the tech guy gets brought in and he's told to make a bet. And he goes, a bet on what? And they were like, just make a bet. And he goes, 17. And they go, minutes? And he goes, yeah, it's 17 minutes, I guess. And then it turns out he was betting on how long a guy would be able to last against a king cobra, a snake.
Which is hilarious, because before this movie started, I made a really, really, really funny joke to Kevin.
Please say the joke, because it was very funny.
I was like, they should do a mashup movie, a sequel to Money Plane, and a sequel to Snakes on a Plane, Snakes on a Money Plane. And we all had a great big laugh about it. And then it's like, okay, now let's watch this movie that will have nothing to do with snakes. Enter.
There are snakes. This tech guy is horrified, but the guy managed to last 16 minutes and 59 seconds, so he wins. And then what happens is a series of him making bets, not sure what he's doing. And then it's like how long a person can survive in a pool filled with piranhas. And he just so happens to pick the exact number. So he just always lucks his way into winning on the Money Plane. And my eyes brightened and I went, that's honestly a pretty funny gag. And that's when I started to realize Money Plane kind of knows what it is. And when it does know what it is, it's genuinely pretty fun.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's legitimately entertaining to watch on the moments that you can tell that the movie knows it's being ridiculous at times.
Yeah, because it's still playing it straight in those scenes, but what's happening is funny. Like, and you can tell that they are going for jokes at certain points. So it does stand to reason. Like, no, I don't think that this director or the writing team behind it are absolute fools or anything like that. No. I think they know exactly what they're doing. I did feel like this needed a few polishes, just because we did bring up the note about the Russian roulette joke. We do also have the story rubs, which includes, as James alluded to, we go back to Adam Copeland, because surely he'll get out of this cockpit, right? Folks, we are an hour into the movie, and Adam Copeland is still in the cockpit, occasionally going on his earpiece and going, everything going all right back there? And them going, yeah. And he goes, all right, cool.
Like, there's no plot reason why he's stuck in this cockpit. It's like, this was like the entertaining thing you had for this character, for this action movie, for this whole movie, was him just sitting in a cockpit.
And that's what I wanted to bring up. I feel like what ended up hurting them was their super low budget. I feel like if you had another $10 or $15 million and you have the time to coordinate stunts, I don't think he would be in the cockpit the entire movie.
Well, no, he's the gambler. You've established the tech guy is the tech guy. And it's like, why is he here? It's just like they shuffled everyone for reasons, but I didn't understand the reasons.
I was hoping they would have paid it off a little bit more, where, you know, Adam Copeland is kind of defined by his shitty luck. So if he called up the tech guy and went, hey man, what are you up to? And he goes, I'm just winning money left and right. And just having Adam Copeland sit in the front, only doing this because he has shitty luck, going, that's great. That's really great. I'm really fucking happy for you, man. But yeah, so eventually, once we hit like the hour and 10 mark, Thomas Jane, who's his buddy on the ground, picks up a piece of intel. And bear in mind, there is some action stuff with Thomas Jane. He does defend Adam Copeland's house from bad guys. Thomas Jane figures out an important piece of information, which is that painting that was stolen, it's been recovered, and it's at this company, and that company is owned by no other than the Grouch himself, Kelsey Grammer.
Oh my God, Kevin, I forgot about the painting. Just kidding. I never forgot about the painting because the movie kept reminding me of it.
Adam Copeland, because fuck subtlety, rings up the Grouch on Skype, says, "Hey, do you ever figure out what happened to that painting?" And the Grouch goes, Nah, but don't worry about it. It's fine. How's the money plane heist going? And Adam Copeland, again, because why play something close to the chest? It's clear that he's a shitty gambler. Looks into the Skype and says, "Yeah, well, I know you stole it, and I'm going to take the money for myself. Fuck you, buddy." And the Grouch goes, "Hey, don't do that. Bring me my money." And then the best moment of the film happens, where Adam Copeland, egging him on, goes, "Oh, yeah, you think you're so tough, right?" And Fraser's own Kelsey Grammer looks down the barrel of the camera and says, "Yeah, I'm a bad motherfucker." And there's no way not to be charmed. There's no way you can see that and not go, I'm having a really fun time.
I think every movie would be at least 2% better if they had Kelsey Grammer looking at the camera saying, I'm a badass motherfucker.
Even movies that I would put at 100%. The Godfather, we can find a scene where you can put him in there. Yes, so eventually they steal the money. And bear in mind, the lady who does the humana eventually does get confronted by the misogynist dude who goes, "Why, I oughta, your sexy moves are no match for my brawn." And then she fucking rips his ears off with her bare hands, which is, I was happy with. And then eventually, Adam Copeland manages to leave the cockpit, and it's him, the lady, and the tech guy are all standing there. And he goes, "Wait, I have a better idea. Instead of stealing this for ourselves, let's just give the money out." And they just donate it, I think, to a random charity. Or do you remember differently?
It's weird. They donate it to a bunch of charities, the crypto. But the millions of dollars in cash, they just like shove out the side of the plane as like a final FU to the Grouch who's watching via webcam. They're just like, "Hey, look at this. We're throwing all this money out the plane." I'm like, you just established that you care about charitable donations. And that was all packaged up very neatly. You could have just grabbed it and donated that as well. And it just didn't make any sense to throw away all those millions of dollars also.
All I could imagine, James, was you have a Tiny Tim-esque figure standing at the corner of a sidewalk, and he's got his one crutch and his little tin can trying to beg for change, and then there's just a shadow above him, and he looks up and goes, "Oh heavens, what luck!" and then smash all of the money falling on him. That would work. If Money Plane had more money in its budget, I would say go shoot that. That's worth doing the pickup for.
If Money Plane was a money movie, it would have had a different
And then it turns out that Adam Copeland and Du Bois have called in an anonymous tip to the crime hotline to say that the Grouch is doing shifty shit. And knowing his number is out, Kelsey Grammer picks up a machine gun, cocks it, and then when dudes storm in to try and kill him, he screams like mad and fires his machine gun. And that's the last we see of Kelsey Grammer's character.
He goes the route of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where we don't really know what happens to him, but we can probably... Like, if he was shooting that maniacally, I have a feeling he was outnumbered.
He was outnumbered and probably missing. Like, he was probably missing shots.
But we don't know because this movie didn't have the budget to show who was coming for him.
Fair enough.
So they cut away with him not getting shot at all to months later?
2 months later, that's right. In addition to never seeing Kelsey Grammer again, we do never see the lady or the tech guy or anyone in his crew for that matter. We just see Adam Copeland now with his family. He apparently kept enough money for himself where he could be financially solvent. and he hugs his wife and kid by their more modest than Kelsey Grammer's pool, and basically be like, we're a big happy family. And James, that's when I say the pilot should have popped back up onto his back. Everyone in the family screams, cut to credits. But no, we just have a happy family, then we cut to credits. That is Money Plane.
Money Plane.
Listen, like we more or less talked to you about the quality, and it just felt right for us to give you a blow-by-blow on what happened in it, because it's just too fun not to talk about. And I will say, I was expecting all the fun in Money Plane to be self-generated. I expected to mostly just get James and Jenny's awesome witticisms as I watched the movie, and that would be how I'd be entertained for Money Plane. But genuinely, the movie itself had me entertained at times, which I think for a movie of this caliber, which is, and I'm not trying to be dismissive, but genuinely, Lo, it is more or less a direct-to-DVD movie. I do think that it is a cut above, like, what I expected this to be. But how about you, James?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Even though the trailer sold a higher production value than we actually got, this was still a never need to see for both of us. So by the time we sat down to watch it, yeah, man, I was surprisingly, I'm like, wow, the production value of this movie is so much lower than I thought it'd be, but my entertainment value is so much higher than I thought it'd be, and that is wild to me.
Okay, so what would you rate it? Because our scale for trailer in the rear view, of course, is should see again, glad I saw it, should have waited, shouldn't have seen it.
I'm gonna say, like, if we're going with like if I had paid to see this in the movie theater.
Yeah, our scale is kind of thrown off here because, again, we inexplicably got this for free.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
presuming
say,
you can't see it for free.
I'm gonna say it's a very, very low should have waited. So I would have bet so much money. I would have bet Russian roulette money that this would have been a never need to see it if I ever got around to seeing it. Hey, I got around to seeing it, and you know what? Not that bad. It's not that bad. It is a should have waited.
Yeah, and it's absolutely a should have waited for me. So I do think that the best way to watch this movie is with your friends, with a drink, with whatever your vice of choice is. And it's you and your friends watching it and laughing at it. Sometimes it's at the audaciousness of it. Sometimes it's at the non-existent color correcting in a scene. Sometimes it's at the movie itself. You're laughing with it, too. But honestly, if you're a fan of doing that, of having those watches with friends where you are basically laughing along or sometimes at the movie, this is honestly a pretty good option. We're going to move on from Money Plane because we could talk about it ad infinitum. If we could talk about it on a loop, you could potentially say. Would you potentially say that, James?
I hate you, but I love you.
It's good that you hate and love me because that's precisely what the characters are doing in Palm Springs, James. Oh shit, and it's also a loop. I completely forgot about that.
Good day so far? Today, tomorrow, it's all the same.
You! What is going on? Hey, get out of the water!
Guess you followed me. It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
That I might have heard about.
Yeah.
Yes, I will go ahead and give this trailer a need to see.
Need to see, buddy. Double need to see. Let's do it.
Give me that Foley. Give me the loop. Give me the loop. This is Palm Springs. Yes, James and I did really love that trailer, but how did it hold up after seeing the movie? James, how about you? Go first. What's going on?
When it comes to comparing this movie to the trailer, hey, time loop. Check. Comedy, humorous moments, check. Existential dread and crisis, definite check. And this will become more clear when Kevin chimes in. J.K. Simmons also being stuck in the time loop. You telegraph that. Is it true? Check.
Check. But at the same time, what I was impressed by was it didn't feel like that was a massive spoiler. You know that J.K. Simmons is in the loop. I would say about like the 30 to 40 minute mark. So it comes up pretty quick. So the fact that J.K. Simmons is seen partying with Andy Samberg's character is not a deal breaker, especially because their relationship is portrayed the way it is in the trailer versus how it is in the actual movie. I think it ended up working really well as a misdirect.
I totally agree with you. It was, in the trailer, Kevin and I both got the vibe that it was like, oh, this would have been like a cool reveal because it's clearly building up that way to be a reveal that, hey, there was a third person stuck in this time loop at this wedding. Pretty clear that no, it's just kind of played as a joke. Like, oh no, there's this third guy in this time loop that just tries to kill me every once in a while.
Yeah.
And that was it was played as a side joke instead of a reveal, and that's how you do it, man.
I thought that it did a really good job of conveying not just its comedy, but more or less its premise just within the trailer itself. So something I try to be very conscious of, because sometimes James and I will expand on a trailer. Sometimes, and we did it for Palm Springs, we'll watch it and be like, oh, this kind of feels like this is the hedonism montage, which is in every time loop comedy, but basically extended into a full movie. We got that impression from the trailer, but something I try to be conscious of is once I'm watching the movie, I do my best to let that preconceived notion go. Because sometimes you watch a trailer, get an impression of the movie, and then you watch it, and it's definitely not that.
Agreed.
And it is a trailer does missell you, and sometimes it is you just read too much into, more or less, in quotes, the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked into Palm Springs just wanting it to be its own thing and was very delighted by the fact that, no, it really is just a long form of the hedonism montage. And it made me even happier with the trailer because I thought it conveyed that just within its 2-minute runtime.
I think it sold it chef's kiss, like perfectly.
Okay, well, let's get into the actual movie now. So there will be spoilers. Beyond J.K. Simmons is also in the loop. So if you still need to watch it, it is on Hulu. I would definitely recommend watching it. Otherwise, find a friend who has a Hulu account. Get Shudder for a month, because Shudder's only like $5. I've been using that as a bartering tool whenever I try to get a streaming service off of someone, and that's how I have Hulu. This is Palm Springs. So yes, it is. It is definitely a time loop comedy. It is definitely centered on the hedonism aspect that comes with time loop comedies, but it expands it because we don't get an exact time frame for how long Andy Samberg's character is in the loop for, but we get the impression it's a long time, at least a year.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that, and that's something that isn't new in time loops. Like even Groundhog's Day, it's still a question of like, how long was he stuck in the time loop? It's still uncertain. But the really refreshing thing about Andy Samberg's character and his journey is that we never get his origin of entering the time loop. We never get that. Right. We never get that first and then second day, which is really interesting. That is completely fresh for time loop movies.
We don't start on him entering the time loop. We start on the day in which he meets Kristen Milioti. I thought that was honestly a really great choice because we see him at the beginning of the loop, which does lend a lot of credence into why he is miserable, is because he wakes up every morning with his girlfriend who is going to eventually cheat on him that night at the wedding. That's part of why his self-esteem is steamrolled. And as such, the first day of note for him is when he meets someone else who also comes into the loop with him. Mm-hmm. And then from that point, it shifts into her perspective. And I think it does a really good job of shifting its perspectives because it initially puts us in Andy Samberg's corner right at the very beginning where we can understand where he's coming from. Then eventually, once we have our reveal of this is a time loop, we go into Kristen Milioti's perspective. And from there, then all of a sudden, we're in her corner being like, what the fuck is going on? What's happening? What are the rules of this? And we basically get all of that in a very dryly funny way. I want to give Palm Springs a ton of credit for doing so much exposition in not just a mix of visual and verbal ways, but in a way in which it's always entertaining.
I laughed more at this movie than any comedy I've seen in a very long time. But it's not.
It's
It's
hilarious.
to say it's just a comedy is really selling it short, because there are so many aspects of this movie that really landed for me. That more than just the humor, but the humor is aces, man. And when it comes to our characters' introduction and their first couple days stuck in the time loop together, hilarity ensues.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think what makes it interesting is effectively these are the two perfect people to get caught in a loop because they're both incredibly caustic people in their own right. We have Andy Samberg, who is basically just the stereotype of a sad boy. It's my girlfriend is leaving me and I'm really bummed about it. And how could she do that? Like that sort of thing.
But he's not even bummed about the girlfriend leaving him. He's just bummed about the time loop.
I have to keep reliving this day
Mhm.
specifically, of all days. And then in addition, we have Kristen Miliotti's character, who is seen as the black sheep of the family.
Because she even describes that to Andy Samberg, I think her first day stuck in the time loop. In my family's eyes, I drink too much, I sleep around too much. And
Yeah,
those are her words. And you just kind of like, while you're watching that scene, it just kind of brushes over you of like your family's being overly critical of you. That's ridiculous. And then eventually it becomes revealed that the night before the wedding, so the morning of the time loop, she has to wake up every morning, every single morning, as a reminder to the mistake she made the night before of sleeping with the groom. And that is just epically conflicting and very deep and hard to get through.
what I appreciate about it is how we see the characters dealing with both of those issues throughout the loop itself. Because, yeah, there are plenty of days where they just drink or they do shrooms or someone finds Coke.
Flash mob in a bar.
Really fun ways in which they deal with the loop aspect of everything because it doesn't matter what the consequences are, it just resets the next day. Send this dude into the bathroom where my girlfriend eventually cheats on me. I'm going to whisper in my sister's ear the truth about her husband. I think what makes it great is the beginning of the film and what sets Kristen Miliotti's sights on Andy Samberg is she is told, well, you're the maid of honor. You have to give a speech at the wedding. And then Andy Samberg bails her out and makes like a very passionate and sweet speech about marriage. That's how they end up meeting. And then at the end of the film, she, in quotes, gets it. But what's nice about it is this isn't a time loop comedy where you get the message, in quotes, and then you get out. Because at certain points, they both, in quotes, get the message and they still wake up in the loop. And
Exactly.
so, in order to get out, Kristen Milioti grabs a laptop, grabs some books on quantum physics, studies her ass off for a long period of time, and eventually figures out here's how we get out of the loop. I strap C4 onto my chest, and there's a like 3-second delay from the point in which you're in the tunnel and the point in which you come out and you wake up the next morning. You trigger the bomb then, and hopefully it just blows you out or it blows you up. Either way, you get out of the loop.
I loved the absurdity of that. And again, if we're talking about refreshing takes on time loop movies, blowing yourself up with C4 to get out of the time loop, that goes in the refreshing column.
Absolutely, yeah. Kristen Milioti, and this is after a fight that they've had because it's revealed that Andy Samberg, no, I slept with you hundreds of times before you eventually came into the loop with me. All I had to do was bail you out of your speech at the wedding, and then you would just like fall into my lap.
To describe how easy it was to do it was so devastating to hear. Like,
Yeah.
and like, you really feel for her character in that moment.
She storms away, and then we stick on Andy Samberg's perspective as he realizes how bad he fucked up. and we see how empty his life is now that she's no longer there. Then all of a sudden she comes back, reveals, yeah, I went and studied quantum physics. I just blow myself up. Let's get out of here, man. And he says, no, I don't want that. I just want to be with you. And I want to be with you in this loop, because eventually it hits the point where he just becomes familiar with it. He understands it. He knows what to do. And so she parts ways.
Well,
And
and he's afraid of the unknown also.
yes, Kristen Milioti gives a very good speech at her sister's wedding. June Squibb approaches her and says, well, it looks like you're going to be leaving, so I'll let you go.
Yeah,
And
what the
walks
hell?
away.
What the hell?
I took that, honestly, just because this movie is kettle drum fucking tight. Like, every single thing gets paid off.
Yeah.
So I looked at June Squibb's little thing there as she's this sweet, wise old woman who can tell, I can tell you're leaving, and I'm going to just say that without necessarily recognizing the significance of what I'm saying.
So
That's how I'm reading it.
I mean, Jenny and I both watched that scene and read it as she must have been the first person to be stuck in this time loop, and she's just stuck in it.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
We both, literally, Jenny and I both like paused it and went, wait, so she is like J.K. Simmons. She's also stuck in it, but she knows that that she's about to leave now, so she's faring her farewell.
That would imply that June Squibb knows how to get out, wouldn't it?
Or that she went the route of Andy Samberg of she knows there's a way to get out, but she doesn't care. This is her life now. And she's lived so many years in this life that this is just all she knows. And she's got no interest in, I don't know, like if she was able to find that level of comfort in isolation, which kind of goes against what the movie's message is.
And I think that is a really cool read. I think in order for that to work for me, I think I would have needed June Squibb's character built a bit more. Because in theory, if she is choosing to stay in the loop, that is because they do establish in the movie you don't age when you're in the loop. So it's not like at some point Andy Samberg is going to be 60 years old. And so for June Squibb's character, she's near the end of her life. And she presumably doesn't have the same strife that Samberg and Milioti's character have. And as such, why would she leave? Like, she gets to be with her family, see this marriage. She, granted, doesn't know about the cheating husband. She basically gets the best version of her life she can get, so why would she leave?
That's a really good point. Oh, man.
I think in order for that to work, though, I would need to either watch it keeping a closer eye on June Squibb's character, or that's something that I think might have had to be fleshed out a little bit more in order for me to be comfortable saying that's my read.
Or Jenny and I are completely wrong on that, and she's not stuck in the time loop.
Or it could just be, she's a sweet old lady and didn't realize that she was saying something profound. One of the two. We hit the end of the movie where Andy Samberg approaches Kristen Milioti as she's approaching the cave with a C4 vest on and gives this big speech about how I don't care if we blow up as long as we're together when it happens. That's what I want, and I understand that now, and apologizes and comes clean.
The one sentence speech, which was fucking hilarious and deep and meaningful all in the same time. God, so good.
Emphatic period. And it gets the best response ever, which is, that was a grammatical nightmare. An emphatic period is just an exclamation point. It's really funny. It balances its sweetness and its humor incredibly well. And then these two characters hold hands as they walk through the tunnel. They start to get sucked in. Kristen Milioti pulls them in for a kiss, hits the button for the detonator, and we slam to black. And then come out, and then we see our two characters at a pool, lounging. We reveal Andy Samberg had a dog this entire time, because it didn't come up before. And then the family of the people who own this particular house say, hey, what the fuck are you doing here? And then that's how we reveal they got out of the loop. Mm-hmm. And I will say, really my only note about this is because the message is about that companionship, is it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, so long as you have someone else. because of that, I didn't really want to see what happened after she hit the button and we smashed to black. I would have been over the fucking moon if we just hit credits. But how about you, James? And I already know where this is going because I know you disagree with me.
Kevin and I, in a rare moment, we've actually discussed the ending of this movie already. Usually we save it for the podcast, but we've already
keep it fresh.
While Kevin and I both agree on the message of the movie, we disagree on the ending. And I'm gonna say I would have also been okay with that ending. Now I'm gonna like put the thing down, flip it, and reverse it, and go back a little bit. I kind of anticipated that being the ending, probably like a half hour earlier, maybe even like 45 minutes earlier. And
was there anything in particular that clued you to that? Or was that just a feeling?
For now, let's just say it was a feeling. Because the point of the movie is the journey and the company you choose along the way. And as long as you have that company, then you'll be okay. And so whether they make it through, or whether they die, or whether they're stuck in the loop, those are the three options. Whether any of those three happen is irrelevant because the message is they have found each other and they have finally chosen to accept each other, to be that person's company. Now, I would posit, if you would agree with me on that, which I think you do, Kevin, that that's the message.
I do.
Then you should hypothetically be okay with any of those endings actually being the ending, which I am. And I personally, like I said, I would have been also okay with it ending with the button push. I would have been okay with it ending with the button push and them exploding into a million like smithereens. I would have been okay with them hitting the button and them waking up and they're still stuck in the time loop. Like, it didn't matter to me because the message was hit and landed so perfectly that no matter how which one of those three ways they chose to end it, I would have been equally happy.
All right, so first credit where that's due. That is a fucking awesome point. I do see what you're saying, and for what it is worth, I'm not saying that I necessarily hate the ending as it stands now, which is, you know, they get out of the loop and there's a shrug. Oh, I guess we just get out the day after. Ha, 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 and then pan up to the sky. I don't necessarily dislike that. I do think that the final image of the film being their embrace and that kiss and then her bringing that button up and pushing it, that would have been perfect for me. Of just like, now we've come together and we're going to take the next step of our journey, whether that be we get out of a loop, whether that be we're still stuck in it, or whether that's death and we're just together, and that's what's important.
That's really good because on a visual aspect, that frame or that shot composition of them going into the cave was spectacular. So I would agree with that is spectacular. However, I would posit the movie is first and foremost a comedy, and to end on a joke, I think is strong. It's the strongest way to end it. A comedy, I think.
Just a couple things before we go. First of all, J.K. Simmons is very funny in this. I did really love what they do with his character. And sorry to kind of short shrift him, but we had to talk about the ending, which was obviously contentious between James and I.
We knew we would be spending a lot of runtime on the ending, so we had to kind of cut J.K. Simmons talk.
Yeah, but he is great in it. We did want to give him that shout out. And something else too, I kept referring to Andy Samberg as a sad boy and pretentious. And if you've listened to me throughout the years doing Trailer Hitch, you know I'm usually repelled as fuck by those characters. One, I think Andy Samberg does a really good job of making that guy charming and making the hurt a bit more believable. He is just down on himself and a sad boy, but at the same time, especially given his circumstances, I can sort of track what's going on with like, okay, this is why. And it did take an unnatural circumstance in order to get him to that point, which is why I found the character a bit more palatable than I usually do. But here is another note that I have, but now after thinking about it longer, I realize is something that I really admire about the movie. I don't know if this is intended. Buckle up, James. So Kristen Miliotti's character has her arc perfect and clean, right? Where she starts in this intense place of self-loathing, and then she comes to respect herself. Through that, she is able to get her shit together to get out of the loop. Andy Samberg doesn't get his shit together at the end of the movie, if you think about it. He basically just shifted his codependency on from one person to another person. He's more or less in the same spot that he started in. But then I thought about it and I realized that just means he's still in a loop mentally. And I went, I don't know if that's intended, but I kind of love that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I would say, first of all, I love that. At the end of the day, though, I think his arc is nothing matters, nothing matters, nothing matters. And by the end of the movie, he realizes, no, you know what? Some things matter. She matters.
Interesting. Okay.
While it's a smaller arc than what she goes through, hers is more important and hers drives the plot more.
The story, yeah.
His is more of an emotional thing, and it's more in the background because, like you said, I think the movie knows the whole sad boy trope is something most people roll their eyes at. So if you make that like the background arc, I think it just it works a little bit more.
Bear in mind, I think with my aspect, I do agree that it is nothing matters to something matters. And importantly, someone matters to him. But at the same time, I think a good part of why he starts in that set is his girlfriend dumps him. And because it's never established how he finds the loop in the first place, I have to assume that it started with him being despondent about the fact that he caught his girlfriend cheating on him. You know?
Totally. And you know what? You could have a whole prequel movie as to how he finds that cave to begin with.
But now I want the sequel movie where June Squibb is like, nah, I'm happy here. I mean, I don't think you can stretch it a full 80 to 90 minutes, but
it's a short film. You can do a great short film. Why not?
You know what the movie is? Because we do get, and bear in mind, with my ambiguity ending, there would be one loose end, which is J.K. Simmons. Kristen Miliotti's character calls him and tells him, this is how you get out. I think with my way, like the ambiguity way for an ending, it's just at the end of her voicemail, she says, good luck, Roy. And then I know exactly what's happening there, and I would have been satisfied. For a sequel idea, James, it's J.K. Simmons still has it out for Andy Samberg, so he drags Andy Samberg back into the cave and puts him back in the loop again.
Oh
and
my God.
That's where you meet June Squibb.
Oh my God. There's so much potential here, but I don't want that for Andy Samberg's character.
It would devastate him.
It would so devastate him and me. But yeah, that's your in. That's your in right there.
Yeah. All right, but hey, clearly if we're talking about this movie a lot, we liked it a bunch. But how much is a bunch? So, by our rating scale, James, what say you? What do you give Palm Springs?
I'm going to be honest, man. This was my favorite movie of this year so far. I need to see again. Kevin.
I also give this a should see again.
Yay! That is our tippy top. When both of us give it our tippy top award,
you should see the show.
You should go out and see this movie.
You should go out and see this movie. But before you go, we do have to tell you how to listen to this podcast. So stick around. Just for a few more minutes. We got you. Don't worry. Okay. So you can find us on Stitcher, or you can find us on Apple Podcasts, or you can find us on YouTube. If you just search Trailer Hitch on any of those platforms, you should be able to see us. Be sure to like and subscribe or do whatever thing helps us find more listeners on whichever platform you are on. We would sincerely appreciate it. But if you would like to contact us, if you would like to reach out to say, hey, I also love Palm Springs, but I have this idea about the ending, you can reach out to us. You can do so by hitting us up via email at Trailer Hitch Mailbox, or you can hit us up on Facebook at Trailer Hitch Podcast. Otherwise, you are welcome to hit us up on Twitter at Trailer Hitch Pod, or if you want to take a picture and send us your feedback, you can do so on Instagram at Trailer Hitch Podcast. But before we go, we would also like to thank Danny Schmitz from Lost in a Name for the amazing intro song that you hear at the top of every episode. We would like to thank Casey Clowers for the amazing outro, which you will be hearing momentarily. We would also like to thank Rachel Ashley for the amazing cover art that you see on all of her various social medias. You can find her work at Mighty Creations on Instagram. And our bad movie and social media correspondent, Jenny Hotz, for her sterling work week in and week out. James, is there anything you'd like to add?
see Palm Springs, see Money Plane, just because it's fun. And you know what? We'll be back to talk about Comic-Con. How about that, you guys?
Yep, for our fresh 100th episode with our name that definitely is not as clunky as the Washington football team, this was Trailer Hitch.
You can't mend holy sails without a sailor stitch, and you can't haul your stuff without a trailer hitch. Trailer hitch.
And we would like to thank Jenny Hawks, our bad movie and social movie correspondent, for her sterling work week in and week out.
You did say social movie correspondent.
Fuck me.